Welcome to Sinister States.
I never used to believe in shortcuts. Not the kind that save you a few minutes on your commute, or the ones that let you skip a couple of steps in a recipe. I mean the real shortcuts, the ones that promise to get you somewhere faster, but always seem to come with a price. My dad used to say, if a road looks empty, there's a reason for it. I always thought he was just being old-fashioned, the way parents are when they talk about the world like it's out to get you. But now, after what happened in that tunnel, I think he might have been right all along. It started on a Thursday, the kind of day that feels like it's been stretched too thin. I'd been working late at the warehouse, sorting boxes and trying not to think about how much my feet hurt. The sun was already down by the time I clocked out, and the air had that heavy, wet feeling that means rain is coming. I was tired, hungry, and just wanted to get home, take off my boots, and maybe microwave something that didn't taste like cardboard. My usual route took me along the main road, past the old mill and the strip of fast food joints that never seemed to close. But that night, as I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw the flashing lights of a police cruiser blocking the intersection. There'd been an accident, 2 cars twisted together, glass everywhere, a couple of uniforms waving people away. I groaned, knowing the detour would add at least 20 minutes to my drive. I could already feel the ache in my back getting worse. That's when I remembered the tunnel. It's not really a tunnel, not in the way you'd picture one. It's more like an old service passage, carved through the hill behind the industrial park. People used to say it was built for the railroad, back when trains still ran through this part of town, but I never saw any tracks. Just a long, concrete tube, half buried in weeds and graffiti, with a chain-link fence that someone had cut open years ago. I'd seen it 100 times, driving past on my way to work, but I'd never thought to use it. Not until that night, when the main road was blocked and my patience was running out. I pulled over, killed the engine, and stared at the entrance. The fence was still open, the metal edges curled back like the jaws of some animal. The tunnel itself was dark, the kind of dark that swallows up your headlights and gives nothing back. I hesitated, thinking about all the stories I'd heard, kids daring each other to go inside, people saying it was haunted, that you could hear voices if you listened close enough. But I was tired, and the shortcut would save me at least 15 minutes. That was all I needed to convince myself. I grabbed my flashlight from the glove compartment, locked the car, and ducked through the gap in the fence. The ground was soft, littered with broken bottles and cigarette butts. The air smelled like wet concrete, and something else, something sharp and metallic, like old blood. I told myself it was just my imagination, that the stories were just stories, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The first few steps were easy. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, bouncing off the walls and picking out bits of spray paint, names, dates, crude drawings of things with too many eyes. The tunnel was longer than I remembered, the ceiling low enough that I had to hunch my shoulders. My footsteps echoed, each one sounding louder than the last, until it felt like there was someone else walking just behind me, matching my pace. I tried to focus on the end of the tunnel, a faint rectangle of light that promised freedom. But the further I went, the more the darkness seemed to press in, thick and heavy, like a blanket soaked in ice water. My breath came out in little clouds, even though it wasn't cold outside. I could hear water dripping somewhere, the steady plink 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 of it hitting the concrete. That's when I heard the whisper. It was so soft I almost missed it, just a breath of sound at the edge of hearing. I stopped, holding my breath, and listened. Nothing, just the drip of water and the distant hum of traffic. I shook my head, told myself I was being stupid, and kept walking. But then I heard it again, closer this time. A voice, low and rough, like someone trying to speak through a mouthful of gravel. Don't look back. I froze. My heart hammered in my chest, and for a second I thought about running. But my legs wouldn't move. I stood there, flashlight trembling in my hand, staring at the far end of the tunnel. The voice came again, softer now, almost pleading, "Don't look back." I wanted to turn around, to see who, or what, was behind me. But something in the voice made me stop. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. I started walking again, faster this time, my boots slapping against the wet concrete. The light at the end of the tunnel seemed to get further away, like I was walking in place. The air grew colder, thick with the smell of rot and old earth. My skin prickled, and I could feel eyes on me, dozens of them, watching from the shadows. I kept my gaze fixed on the exit, refusing to look back. The voice followed me, whispering in my ear, growing more desperate with every step. "Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back." I broke into a run, the flashlight beam jerking wildly as I sprinted for the exit. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, a chorus of voices all saying the same thing. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I burst out of the tunnel, stumbling into the overgrown lot on the other side. The air was fresh, the sky open and wide above me. I bent over, hands on my knees, gasping for breath. My heart was still racing, but the voices were gone. The tunnel behind me was silent, just a dark hole in the earth that I laughed, shaky and breathless, telling myself it was just nerves, just a trick of the mind. I'd made it through, and nothing had happened. I was fine, but as I walked back to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The world felt different, off-kilter, like I was seeing it through a dirty window. The shadows seemed deeper, the air heavier. I told myself it was just adrenaline, that I'd be fine once I got home. I was wrong. The first sign came that night, as I was getting ready for bed. I was brushing my teeth, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, when I saw something move behind me. Just a flicker, a shadow at the edge of the glass. I spun around, but the room was empty. I laughed it off, blaming it on the long day and the weirdness of the tunnel. But then it happened again, and again. Every time I looked in a mirror, I saw it, a shape, just out of sight, moving where it shouldn't be. Sometimes it was tall and thin, sometimes hunched and crawling. Always just a little too fast, a little too wrong. I stopped looking in mirrors after that, started shaving by touch, brushing my teeth with my eyes closed. The dreams were worse that I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, convinced that someone was standing at the foot of my bed. I'd lie there, frozen, listening to the sound of my own breathing, waiting for the mattress to dip under the weight of something climbing up beside me. Sometimes I'd hear whispers, the same words from the tunnel, echoing in my head. "Don't look back." I tried to ignore it, tried to go about my life like nothing had happened. But the feeling never left. I'd catch glimpses of movement in the corners of my eyes, hear footsteps behind me when I was alone. My friends started to notice. They'd ask if I was sleeping okay, if I was sick. I lied, told them I was just stressed from work. But I knew the truth. Something had followed me out of that tunnel. Something that didn't belong in the daylight, that I started keeping the lights on at night, every lamp and bulb burning bright. It didn't help. The shadows just got deeper, thicker, pressing in around the edges of the room. I tried sleeping with the TV on, the noise filling the silence, but the whispers just got louder, drowning out the sound. I thought about going back to the tunnel, about trying to put things right. But every time I got close, my body would lock up, my heart racing, sweat pouring down my back. Something inside me knew that going back would only make things worse. So I started making rules, little rituals to keep myself safe. I'd check every lock twice before bed, make sure the windows were closed tight. I'd avoid mirrors, keep my eyes down when I walked past them. I'd never, ever look back when I heard footsteps behind me. It helped a little. The thing that followed me seemed to respect the rules, or maybe it just liked the game. But I could feel it getting closer, night by night, inching its way into my life. One night, I woke up to the sound of scratching at my bedroom door. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across wood. I lay there, paralyzed, listening as the sound moved down the hall, stopping outside the bathroom. I heard the creak of the mirror cabinet, the soft click as it swung open. The next morning, I found the bathroom door ajar, the mirror fogged with handprints. Long, thin fingers pressed against the glass. I started sleeping in my car after that, parked in the lot outside the 24-hour diner. The fluorescent lights made it feel safer, the constant hum of traffic a comfort. But even there, I could feel it watching me, waiting for me to slip up, to break one of my own rules. I tried talking to people, tried to explain what was happening, but the words sounded crazy, even to me. Who would believe that a shortcut through an abandoned tunnel could let something into your life? Who would believe in shadows that move on their own, in whispers that follow you home? But I know what I saw. I know what I hear every night as I lie awake, waiting for the sun to rise. Don't look back. I don't know what it wants or why it chose me. Maybe it's just hungry or lonely or angry at being left behind. Maybe it's just a part of the tunnel, a piece of darkness that needs someone to carry it out into the world. All I know is that it's here now, and it's not going away. I started keeping a journal, not because I thought it would help, but because I needed some way to keep track of what was happening. The days were starting to blur together, and I was afraid I'd lose myself in the fog if I didn't write things down. Every night, after checking the locks and covering the mirrors, I'd sit in the back seat of my car with a cheap spiral notebook and a pen that barely worked, scribbling down everything I could remember. At first, it was just the basics: what time I woke up, what I ate, where I parked. But soon, the entries started to change. I'd write about the dreams, the whispers, the feeling of being watched. I'd draw little maps of the tunnel, trying to remember every detail, every crack in the concrete, every smear of graffiti. I'd list the rules over and over, like a mantra. Don't look back. Don't break the line of salt. Don't sleep in the same place 2 nights in a row. Don't talk to it, no matter what it says. The rules kept growing, getting more complicated as the days went by. I started to wonder if I was making things worse, if the act of writing them down was giving the thing more power. But I couldn't stop. The journal was the only thing that made me feel like I had any control. I tried to research the tunnel, to find out if anyone else had experienced what I was going through. I spent hours at the library, digging through old newspapers and city records. Most of what I found was boring: zoning permits, construction reports, a few articles about kids getting caught spray painting the walls. But every once in a while, I'd find something that made my skin crawl. There was a story from the 70s about a group of teenagers who went missing after a party. Their car was found abandoned near the tunnel, doors wide open, keys still in the ignition. The police chalked it up to runaways, but the parents swore their kids would never have left like that. The article mentioned strange symbols painted on the tunnel walls, but didn't go into detail. Another story, from the early 90s, talked about a homeless man who'd been living in the tunnel. He was found dead, curled up in a corner, eyes wide open and mouth frozen in a silent scream. The coroner said it was a heart attack, but the reporter noted that the man's fingernails were worn down to the bone, as if he'd been clawing at the concrete. I found message board posts, too, old threads on forgotten forums, people swapping stories about the tunnel. Most of them were the usual urban legend stuff: ghosts, monsters, secret government experiments. But a few posts stood out. One user, Tunnel Watcher, wrote about seeing shadows that moved on their own, about hearing voices that told him not to look back. Another user replied, "If you hear the whispers, it's already too late." I tried reaching out, sending messages to anyone who'd posted about the tunnel. Most of the accounts were long dead, the emails bouncing back as undeliverable. But one night, I got a reply. It was from someone calling themselves M, and the message was short. Just 3 words: don't go back. I stared at the screen for a long time, heart pounding. I wanted to ask questions, to beg for advice, but when I tried to reply, the account was already deleted. That was the night I realized I wasn't alone. Whatever was in the tunnel, whatever had followed me out, it had touched other people too. Maybe it was still touching them. Maybe it was still out there, waiting for someone else to make the same mistake I had. I started seeing the thing more often after that. Not just in mirrors, but in windows, in puddles, in the dark glass of my phone when the screen went black. Always just a glimpse, a flicker of movement, a shape that didn't belong. Sometimes it looked like a person, tall and thin, with arms that hung too low and a head that tilted at the wrong angle. Other times it was just a shadow, a smear of darkness that slid along the walls. It never came close, not at first. It stayed at the edges, watching, waiting, but I could feel it getting bolder, testing the boundaries. I started to wonder if the rules were really keeping me safe, or if they were just delaying the inevitable. One night, I woke up to find the car windows fogged over, the air inside thick and cold. I wiped a circle clear with my sleeve and peered out into the parking lot. The diner was still open, the neon sign buzzing, but the lot was empty except for my car. I checked the time, 3:17 a.m. That's when I saw it, standing at the edge of the lot, just beyond the reach of the streetlights, was a figure. Tall, thin, motionless. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was looking at me. I froze, heart hammering, afraid to move, afraid to blink. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, watching. I don't know how long I sat there, staring back. Minutes, maybe hours. Eventually, the sky started to lighten, the first hints of dawn creeping over the horizon. The figure melted away with the darkness, leaving me alone in the car, shivering and exhausted. After that, I stopped sleeping in the car. I started driving, aimlessly, all night long, circling the city, never stopping for more than a few minutes. I'd pull into gas stations, buy coffee I didn't want, just to keep moving. I was afraid that if I stopped, if I let myself rest, the thing would catch up to me. I started seeing signs, little reminders that I wasn't alone. Scratches on the paint of my car, long and thin, like fingernails. Footprints in the dew on the hood, too big to be human. Once, I found a handprint on the inside of the windshield, pressed into the glass from the passenger seat that I tried to tell myself it was just stress, just my mind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew the truth. The thing from the tunnel was getting closer. I started to lose time. I'd find myself in places I didn't remember driving to, empty lots, dead-end streets, the parking lot behind the old mill. Sometimes I'd wake up with the engine running, headlights pointed at nothing, the radio hissing static. My journal entries got shorter, more frantic. I started to forget the rules, to mix them up. Don't look back. Don't break the line of salt. Don't sleep in the same place 2 nights in a row. Don't talk to it, no matter what it says. Don't answer the phone after midnight. Don't let it see you bleed. The rules kept changing, getting harder to remember. I started to wonder if the thing was doing it on purpose, trying to confuse me, to wear me down. I felt like I was losing my mind. One night, I got a call from my sister, Emily. She lives across town, in a little apartment above a bakery. We don't talk much, she's busy with work, and I've never been good at keeping in touch. But that night, she called me, her voice tight with worry. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You sound different." I wanted to tell her everything, to spill out the whole story, but the words caught in my throat. I didn't want to drag her into this, didn't want to risk the thing following her, too. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired. Work's been rough." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, the clatter of dishes in the background. "If you need anything," she said, "just call me." Okay. I promised I would, but I knew I wouldn't. I couldn't risk it. After we hung up, I sat in the car, staring at my phone. The screen flickered, the reflection warped and twisted. For a moment, I thought I saw the thing's face, grinning at me from the glass. That I threw the phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine, heart pounding. I needed to move, needed to get away. But no matter how far I drove, the thing was always there, just out of sight. That I started to wonder if I'd ever be free. One night, I found myself back at the tunnel. I didn't remember driving there, didn't remember turning off the main road or parking by the fence. But there I was, staring at the gaping mouth of the tunnel, the chain-link fence still twisted open. The air was thick with fog, the ground slick with dew. I sat in the car, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to go back inside, to face the thing head-on. Maybe if I confronted it, I could break the curse and the nightmare. But another part of me, the part that remembered the whispers, the warnings, told me to stay away. The tunnel was a trap, a place where the rules didn't apply. I sat there for a long time, watching the darkness. I thought about all the people who'd gone missing, all the stories I'd read. I wondered if they'd felt the same way, if they'd come back to the tunnel, hoping for answers. Eventually, I started the car and drove away. I didn't look back. The days started to blur together after that. I stopped going to work, stopped answering my phone. My apartment was a mess, dishes piled in the sink, clothes scattered across the floor. I barely ate, barely slept. The thing was always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for me to slip up. I started to see it in other people, too. A man on the bus with eyes too dark, a woman in the grocery store whose smile was just a little too wide. I wondered if they were like me, if they'd taken a shortcut and brought something back with them. I started to wonder if the whole town was infected, if the tunnel was just one of many doors. One night, I woke up to find the thing standing at the foot of my bed. It was closer than ever, its face twisted and wrong, eyes like holes in the world. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The thing leaned in, its breath cold on my skin. "Don't look back." It whispered. That I closed my eyes, heart pounding, and waited for it to leave. When I opened them again, the room was empty. That I knew then that the rules weren't enough. The thing was getting stronger, feeding off my fear, my exhaustion. I needed help. I started reaching out, posting on forums, sending messages to anyone who'd ever mentioned the tunnel. Most of the replies were jokes, people calling me crazy, but a few were different. They talked about rituals, about ways to break the connection. One message stood out. It was from someone called the Ferryman. "If you want to be free," the message read, "you have to finish what you started. Go back to the tunnel. Bring an offering. Don't look back, no matter what you hear." I didn't know if I could trust it, but I was out of options. The thing was getting closer every night, and I was running out of time. I started preparing, gathering supplies, salt, candles, a knife, a small mirror. I wrote a note to Emily, just in case I didn't make it back. I told her I loved her, told her not to come looking for me. The night I chose was cold and clear, the sky full of stars. I drove to the tunnel, heart pounding, hands shaking. The fence was still open, the tunnel mouth yawning wide. I took a deep breath, stepped out of the car, and walked into the darkness. The tunnel swallowed me whole. The air inside was colder than I remembered, thick with the scent of damp earth and old secrets. My footsteps echoed off the concrete, each one a hollow drumbeat in the dark. I kept my flashlight low, the beam trembling as I moved deeper, the circle of light barely enough to keep the shadows at bay. I tried to keep my breathing steady, tried to focus on the rules I'd written and rewritten in my journal. Don't look back. Don't listen to the voices. Don't let it see you bleed. The words ran through my mind like a prayer, a lifeline I clung to as the darkness pressed in. I'd brought the offering, just like the ferryman had said. A handful of coins, old and tarnished, gathered from the bottom of my dresser drawer. I didn't know if it would work, didn't know if the thing in the tunnel cared about such things, but it was all I had. I carried the salt, too, a small bag clutched tight in my fist, and the mirror, wrapped in a towel to keep it from catching the light. The tunnel seemed longer than before, the end lost in shadow. The graffiti on the walls looked different, the colors faded, the shapes twisted into things I didn't recognize. I passed the spot where I'd first heard the whisper, the memory sharp and clear in my mind, "Don't look back." I kept moving, my heart pounding, sweat prickling on my skin despite the cold. The air grew heavier, the darkness thicker, until it felt like I was wading through water. My flashlight flickered, the beam sputtering as if the batteries were dying, but I didn't dare stop to check. That's when the voices started at first. It was just a murmur, a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then the words took shape, familiar and strange, echoing off the walls. "Why did you come back?" I gritted my teeth, kept walking. The voices grew louder, overlapping, a chorus of whispers that clawed at my mind. "You shouldn't be here. It's too late. You can't leave." I pressed the bag of salt tighter, the grains digging into my palm. I tried to focus on the end of the tunnel, the faint promise of light that seemed to recede with every step. The air grew colder, my breath coming in ragged clouds. I could feel the thing behind me, closer than ever, its presence a weight on my back. I fought the urge to turn around, to see if it was really there, but the rules were clear: don't look back. The voices changed, growing softer, more insistent. They sounded like people I knew, my father, my sister, old friends I hadn't seen in years. "Please, just look at me. Don't leave me here. I'm scared." I stumbled, nearly dropping the mirror. My hands shook as I unwrapped it, holding it out in front of me. The glass was cold, the surface fogged with my breath. For a moment, I saw nothing but my own reflection, pale, wide-eyed, haunted. Then, behind me, a shape began to form. It was tall and thin, its arms too long, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. Its eyes were black holes, its mouth a jagged line that stretched too wide. It moved with a jerky, unnatural grace, its limbs bending in ways that made my stomach twist that I forced myself to keep walking. The mirror held out like a shield. The thing followed, its reflection growing clearer with every step. The voices grew frantic, pleading, angry. "Don't leave me. Turn around. Look at me." I reached the center of the tunnel, the air so cold it burned my lungs. I knelt, hands shaking, and poured a line of salt across the floor. The grains glittered in the flashlight's beam, a thin barrier between me and the thing behind me that I placed the coins in the center of the salt line, the metal clinking softly. I whispered a prayer, words I barely remembered from childhood, and waited. The thing stopped at the edge of the salt, its reflection wavering in the mirror. It reached out, long fingers brushing the air, but it couldn't cross the line. Its mouth opened, a soundless scream twisting its face. The voices fell silent. For a moment, the tunnel was still. The only sound was my own breathing, ragged and harsh in the cold air. Then the thing began to change. Its shape flickered, shifting from one form to another, a child, a woman, a man with hollow eyes. Each face was familiar, a memory dredged from the depths of my mind. I saw my father, my sister, friends I'd lost, people I'd hurt. Each one stared at me, their eyes pleading, accusing. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to help them, wanted to reach out, but I knew it was a trick. The thing was using my memories, my guilt, to break me. I forced myself to stand, the mirror still held out in front of me. I stepped over the salt line, leaving the offering behind. The thing shrieked, a sound that rattled the walls, but it didn't follow. I kept moving, one foot in front of the other, the end of the tunnel growing closer. The light was brighter now, a promise of freedom. The voices faded, replaced by a deep, aching silence. As I reached the exit, I felt the thing's presence recede, the weight lifting from my shoulders. I stepped out into the night, the air crisp and clean, the stars bright overhead. I turned and looked back at the tunnel, the entrance a black hole in the earth. For a moment, I thought I saw a face in the darkness, watching me. Then it was gone. I dropped the mirror, the glass shattering on the pavement. The sound echoed in the night, sharp and final. I stood there for a long time, breathing in the cold air, feeling the world settle around me. I was free. The thing was gone. Or so I thought. The days that followed were strange. The world felt brighter, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. I went back to my apartment, cleaned up the mess, started going to work again. My friends noticed the change, said I looked better, healthier. I smiled, nodded, told them I was just getting more sleep. But at night, when the world was quiet, I'd catch glimpses of movement in the corners of my eyes. Shadows that didn't belong, whispers that faded as soon as I tried to listen. I told myself it was just paranoia, the after effects of everything I'd been through. But deep down, I knew the truth. The thing from the tunnel was gone, but something else had taken its place. A sense of emptiness, a hollow ache that wouldn't go away. I'd left a part of myself in that tunnel, traded it for freedom. The rules had kept me alive, but they hadn't saved me. I started writing again, filling page after page with memories, dreams, fears. I wrote about the tunnel, about the thing that had followed me, about the rules that had kept me safe. I wrote about the offering, the salt, the mirror. I wrote about the faces I'd seen, the voices I'd heard. That I wrote about the price I'd paid. One night, as I was writing, I heard a knock at the door. It was soft, hesitant, barely more than a tap. I froze, pen hovering over the page, heart pounding. The knock came again, louder this time. I stood, moving to the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. I pressed my eye to the peephole, but the hallway was empty. I opened the door, just a crack, and looked out. There was no one there. Just a small, folded piece of paper on the doormat. I picked it up, hands shaking, and unfolded it. 3 words, written in shaky, uneven letters: "Don't look back." I stared at the note, the words burning into my mind. I closed the door, locked it, and sat down at the table, the note clutched in my hand. I knew then that it wasn't over. The thing from the tunnel was gone, but the rules still applied. The world was full of shortcuts, full of doors that shouldn't be opened, paths that shouldn't be taken. That I'd survived, but I wasn't free. I started making new rules, adding them to the list in my journal. Don't answer the door after midnight. Don't pick up anything left on your doorstep. Don't trust the voices, no matter how familiar they sound. Don't go back to the tunnel. The rules kept me safe, kept the darkness at bay. But I knew it was only a matter of time before something else found me, before another shortcut appeared. I tried to warn people, tried to share my story. Most didn't believe me, thought I was crazy. But a few listened, their eyes wide with fear, their hands shaking as they wrote down the rules. I saw the signs in them, the sleepless nights, the haunted looks, the way they flinched at shadows. I knew they'd taken a shortcut, too. I knew they brought something back. I tried to help, tried to teach them the rules. Some listened, some didn't. The world is full of shortcuts, full of doors that lead to places we're not meant to go. Most people never find them, never even know they exist. But for those of us who do, the rules are all that stand between us and the darkness. I still dream about the tunnel. In my dreams, I'm walking through the darkness, the walls closing in, the voices whispering in my ear. Sometimes I see the thing, its face shifting from one memory to another, its eyes pleading, accusing, but I never look back. I wake up, heart pounding, the rules running through my mind like a prayer. Don't look back. Don't break the line of salt. Don't sleep in the same place 2 nights in a row. Don't talk to it, no matter what it says. Don't answer the door after midnight. Don't pick up anything left on your doorstep. Don't trust the voices. Don't go back to the tunnel. The rules keep me safe. The rules keep me alive. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder what would happen if I broke them. If I turned around, just once, and faced the thing that followed me home. Maybe I'd find answers. Maybe I'd find peace, or maybe I'd find nothing at all. The world is full of shortcuts. Some lead to nowhere. Some lead to places you can never leave. If you ever find yourself standing at the mouth of an abandoned tunnel, thinking about taking a shortcut, remember this. The fastest way home isn't always the safest, and whatever you do, don't look back.